After Sun Wukong defeated, or I should say destroyed his opponent Prometheus, he reflected on his past and got somewhat impacted by the first Outer God, announcing to everyone that he's cancelling humanity's extinction, talking shit to the others for being shocked, because the gods can act on a whim and destroy humanity. Therefore, the gods can also act on a whim and save humanity, but the main reason is, as expected from this mad lad, because he's bored, going against all the others fighting on this list who outside of Prometheus are wanting the destruction of humanity for what we currently know. Directly opposing them is likely more fun and is the representation of freedom far more. A reveal that got the attention of something demonic, the reveal of the demon god Belial, the untouchable outer god who should never be crossed, and is set up to face Leviathan later on in round 1 of the tournament, highlighting that we're now over halfway through the god reveals for this manga, something I'll go into more detail on later on. But for Belial, we see that he's giving some praise to Wukong, saying nice, that's the real case for a god, it's not all about strength. Previously or prior to this announcement, Wukong wasn't really considered a known or legendary god, just one wielding top tier power. But more than anyone, more than anything, you need to have freedom, connecting to key things we've learnt about this sage equal to heaven, and does make this demon fairly interesting thus far, with it likely being the case that he's one who's killed many other gods in the past based on some foreshadowing prior in this manga. But now we have a lot of things to break down, so listen closely. So to begin, what am I talking about? Every video I release in regards to Record of Ragnarok Sun Wukong, people are still confused about his involvement in the Record of Ragnarok series. This is from the side manga Record of Ragnarok The Apocalypse of the Gods, a canon side manga which is set before the events of the main series. Pretty much this is the synopsis. Zeus, the supreme chairman of the Council of Valhalla, announces to the gods 12 of the 13 fighters set to participate in Ragnarok. This is for the main series and doesn't include himself, and is met with dissenting voices to those who were not chosen, pretty much rage from all these other gods. However, Zeus has foreseen this and immediately declares the holding of another tournament. This is to decide the final spot for the Ragnarok lineup, one which will break the taboo of gods fighting one another, therefore the beginning of Record of Ragnarok The Apocalypse of the Gods, and seems to feature for the most part outer gods for what we've seen so far, ones that can't really be controlled by the regular branch of gods we've seen throughout the series. This is either them being too unhinged, too strong, or directly going against the Council of Valhalla for what we've seen thus far. Alongside that, it's mentioned in chapter 1 that the winner of this tournament may get some type of wish, which brings us to the second fight of this manga, where we learned that the first outer god is Prometheus, connected to the Greek pantheon, and he is one participating in this tournament as he wants to save humanity, meaning it's likely the case he wants to use this wish to stop the whole tournament from beginning in the first place. And this is all because he has pure love for humanity, as we learned after Wukong pretty much one-shot him at the start of their battle. Something that initially resulted in the Monkey King to rage out, saying, "Don't make me throw up," and that he should know better than anyone, no matter how much you reach out to them or love them, humanity can't be saved, connecting to all of his travels and how all of it didn't accomplish anything, all things considered. But the drive and willpower of Prometheus was too strong. He pushes forward and wants to save his friends no matter what, whether they're gods, whether they're humanity, it doesn't matter. This is exactly what left a lasting impact on Wukong. Regardless of their power being completely different in tiers, Wukong pretty much could be one of the strongest characters, if not the strongest character in the entire series, based on what we currently know that I talked about in my previous video, while the likes of Prometheus probably isn't all that low tier in comparison, at least based on the one shot where Wukong only used 15% of his power. But after Wukong was officially announced as the winner, he takes his leave but is visibly still raging out based on what Prometheus said to him, that being, what reason do you need to save your friends? Which does in fact connect to his journey to the west, Wukong's journey alongside his friends, and the various humans that he met on the way that had an important impact on him, all things considered, resulting in the initial flashback we get from here, which unfortunately still hasn't introduced Buddha in regards to the lore of Sun Wukong. There's been various characters we know from the main series appearing in the side manga. Buddha thus far isn't one of them, but I'm still hoping when we get more reveals about Wukong in his round 2 fight against Cucullin, we could have the connection to Buddha explored in another flashback, or him making some appearance in the crowd to talk about what's going on, particularly with the similarities between these two based on their role in Record of Ragnarok thus far, that being design and going directly against all the other gods being pure mad lads. Therefore, all this means that the Monkey King is still fighting the tournament. It's more so that he has a reason for going for the win. Prior to this, he was shown to be pretty much lost, just vibing, doing whatever, but this time he has a goal, and that's to save humanity from being destroyed, which technically speaking has already been spoiled to us. We know he doesn't win this tournament as the main series was still able to commence, but there's still various question marks around that, particularly when we know that the 13th god added to the original roster was Zeus, which has led to many people believing that the winner of this tournament will just face Zeus and lose to him in the finale of this side manga. But with that said as well, due to all the other circumstances going on in the main series, there is a possibility that there will be another fighter on the god side required. Therefore, the winner of this tournament could be that god added to the main series somehow, some way. An aspect we're not going to learn for quite some time, as we're now approaching the third fight of the tournament, which, as a reminder, is this guy the representation of a fire phoenix in mythology versus Indra, one of the Indian gods we saw in Shiva's flashback, and is likely one of the strongest based on his performance in that. A fight, if I'm being honest, I'm not that excited for compared to the previous two, but I do have faith that will be pretty cool. Apart from that, we have Nezar vs Morrigan, two characters we've seen thus far on the side for various moments. That's going to be a pretty interesting fight. Then when looking at the other side of the bracket, we have Mazda, who we've seen at various points as well, versus this god we haven't seen thus far. Then we have Enma, who we've seen and connects to Sun Wukong versus Death, a character we haven't seen. Then Bilal, which we've seen in the most recent chapter, who design wise I'm very glad for. Finally a demon or demonic like character that actually looks like such and is probably an absolute monster, and these other two who have not been revealed thus far. A lot of demonic or other wild gods on that side of the bracket, all things considered, compared to the one we're currently on. But next month in the next chapter we're going to get the start of the third fight, which is pretty cool. Probably some other characters commentating, and maybe some more reveals about Bilal, who's recognized as one of the untouchables. All the other gods revealed thus far are recognized as something similar to this. Now before you leave, drop your predictions down in the comments, check out the official partner of the channel GamerSupps, and consider becoming a member like these absolute mad lads. That's it guys, peace.